Hey guys, David here. Welcome to Digital Outlook, where you're gonna find the best community in all of crypto. In today's video, XRP is coming to the rescue. So, guys, without further ado, why don't we get to it? So, guys, I'm sure that a majority of you have been following the news and hearing heaps about this global liquidity crisis that is literally sending ripples, pardon the pun, through the international banking system. Now, it can be amazingly confusing when they come out with the way in which they do, as if this came out of left field, and they don't really provide a lot of definitions of what global liquidity crisis actually is, other than it's causing a ton of bank failures. Well, guys, for those who really need to understand what this is, just take a look over here and get this definition about what a liquidity crisis truly is. So a liquidity crisis is a lack of short-term cash flow. Now just read here. A liquidity crisis is a financial situation characterized by a lack of cash or easily convertible to cash assets on hand across many businesses or financial institutions simultaneously. And is that not what we're seeing on a global level? Yes, we are. In a liquidity crisis, liquidity problems at individual institutions lead to an acute increase in demand and decrease in a supply of liquidity. And the resulting lack of available liquidity can lead to widespread defaults and even bankruptcies. And guys, that is why we're seeing these bank collapses, because they don't have the cash on hand or the assets on hand to back all of the business ventures they've been involved with. And now the crunch has really come, and it's been resulted, of course, as interest rates go up, right? That cost of borrowing goes up. And just think of it from a local level, like a personal level. Let's imagine you signed your mortgage and it was at 2.5%, but then you're forced to refinance it at 7%. Do you think you're going to be able to make the mortgage payments? Some folks won't, and as a result, what happens? They lose their house, they lose those assets. Well, that's kind of what's going on with respect to all these major banks. Now, here are some key takeaways. A liquidity crisis is a simultaneously increase in demand and decrease in the supply of liquidity across many financial institutions or other businesses. At the root of a liquidity crisis are widespread maturity mismatching among banks and other businesses, and a resulting lack of cash and other liquid assets when they're needed. A liquidity crisis can be triggered by large negative economic shocks or by normal cyclical changes in the economy. And boy, oh boy, is that what we're seeing. But guys, this whole narrative that they're putting out there is that somehow this whole deal came out of left field. Well, I want to show you one of the world's most renowned economists, Jim Rickards. Now, Jim Rickards is a world-renowned economist and a brilliant, brilliant individual. And I want you to hear what he had put out there on January 3rd of 2023. And listen to this: on the cusp of a global liquidity crisis. Is there a financial calamity worse than a severe recession in early 2023? Unfortunately, the answer is yes, and it's coming quickly. The greater calamity is a global liquidity crisis. Before considering the dynamics of a global liquidity crisis, it's critical to distinguish between a liquidity crisis and a recession. A recession is part of a business cycle. It's characterized by higher unemployment, declining GDP growth, inventory liquidation, business failures, reduced discretionary spending by consumers, reduced business investment, higher savings rates for those still employed, larger loan losses, and declining asset prices in stocks and real estate. The length and depth of a recession can vary widely, and although recessions have certain common characteristics, they also have diverse causes. Sometimes the Federal Reserve blunders in monetary policy and holds interest rates too high for too long, and that's what seems to be happening now. Sometimes an external supply shock occurs which causes a recessionary reaction. This happened after the Arab oil embargo of 1973, which caused a severe recession from November of 73 to March 75. Recessions can also arise when asset bubbles pop, such as the stock market crash in 1929 or the bursting of the real estate bubble caused by the savings and loan crisis in 1990. Whatever the cause, the course of a recession is somewhat standard. Eventually, asset prices bottom. Those with cash go shopping for bargains in stocks, inventory liquidations end, and consumers resume some discretionary spending. These tentative steps eventually lead to a recovery and new expansion, often with the help from fiscal policy. Now listen to this. A global financial crisis are entirely different. They emerge suddenly and unexpectedly to most market participants, although there are always warning signs for those who know where to look. They usually become known to the public and regulators through the failure of a major institution, which could be a bank, hedge fund, money market fund, or commodity trader. Well, we saw what happened with Credit Suisse, didn't we? We saw what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, didn't we? And now we're being reported that over 186 banks in the United States are absolutely at the moment where they could totally collapse and need to be absorbed by a lot of the greater banks with a massive consolidation. Now listen to this. While the initial failure makes headlines, the greater danger lies ahead in the form of contagion. Capital markets are densely connected. Banks lend to hedge funds. Hedge funds speculate in markets for stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, both directively and in derivative form. Money market funds buy government debt. Banks guarantee some instruments held by those funds. Primary dealers, big banks, underwrite government debt issues but finance those activities in repo markets, where the purchased securities are pledged for more cash to buy more securities in long chains of rehypothecated collateral. You get the point? And he goes, the linkages go on and on. Now listen to this, guys. The Federal Reserve has printed $6 trillion as part of its monetary base, but the total notional value of the derivatives of all banks in the world is estimated at 1 quadrillion. That is 1,000 trillion, guys, a massive, mammoth amount of cash. For those unfamiliar, 1 quadrillion, yep, 1,000 trillion. This means the total value of derivatives is 167 times all of the money printed by the Fed. And the Fed money supply itself, leveraged on a small sliver of only 60 billion of capital. Can you even believe it? So the Fed's balance sheet is leveraged 100 to 1, and the derivatives markets is leveraged 167 to 1 to the Fed money supply, which means the derivatives market is leveraged 16,700 to 1 in terms of federal capital. I'm telling you guys, we are facing something that we have never seen in the entire world. And if this whole bubble literally implodes and collapses, it'll make 1929 look like it was Christmas and everybody was handing out free gifts. That's what it's unbelievable. It will be so catastrophic. And he asked the question, nervous yet? Experts say, so what? These numbers are not new and have been even more stretched at certain times in the past. Simply because the financial system is highly leveraged and densely connected does not mean it's ready to collapse, they say. That's true. Still, it does mean the system could collapse catastrophically and unexpectedly at any time. All it takes to collapse the system is a shock failure leading quickly to panic. Margin calls are issued on losing positions and immediate payment is demanded. Why do you think all the banks are failing? Why? Overnight repos are not rolled over. Overnight deposits are not renewed, and repayment is required. Everyone wants his money back at once. That's what a run on the banks is, guys, and we've literally seen it. People lined around the block trying to get into their local branch to take out some kind of cash. And think of this, there's really only 6% cash for all the deposits that are on record. Assets are dumped to meet repayment obligations, which causes collapses in stock and bond markets, which causes even more losses and liquidations among banks and traders. Suddenly, all eyes are on the Fed for easy money and Congress for bailouts, guarantees of more spending. Now, we've seen this pattern in 1994, 1998, and 2008. Note that two of those three most recent financial crises were not accompanied by a recession. There was no recession in 1994 and none in 1998. Only the 2008 global financial crisis happened to coincide with a severe recession. The point is that recessions and financial crises are both bad, but they are different and do not always come together. When they do, as in 2008, stocks can easily decline 50% or more. We may be looking at such a situation today, which brings us to the key question. If financial markets are almost always highly leveraged, but financial crises occur once every 8 years on average, what signs can investors look for to indicate a crisis is coming and the conditions are not just business as usual for financial markets? Now listen to this. One of the most powerful warning signs is an inverted yield curve. This signal was last seen in 2007, just before the 2008 financial crisis. A normal yield curve slopes upward from the left to the right, reflecting higher interest rates and longer maturities. That makes sense. If I lend you money for 10 years, I want a higher interest rate than if I lend it for 2 years to compensate me for added risk from the longer maturities, such as inflation, policy changes, default, and more. When a yield curve is inverted, that means that longer maturities have lower interest rates. That happens, but it's rare. It means the market participants are expecting economic diversity in the form of recession or liquidity risk. They want to lock in long-term yields, even they're lower than short-term yields, because they expect yields will be even lower in the future. And guys, what are we seeing in the debt market? You literally had the Bank of England go out there and bail out the gilt market, didn't you? Not too long ago. We're seeing exactly this happening. In a nutshell, investors see trouble ahead. Other ominous signs include sharp declines in dollar-denominated reserve positions in the U.S. Treasury securities of China, Japan, India, or other major economies. Naive observers take this as a sign that those countries are trying to dump dollars and dislike the role of the dollar as the leading global reserve currency. In reality, the opposite is true. They're desperately short of dollars, and selling treasuries is a way to get cash to prop up their own banking systems. Guys, this whole banking liquidity crisis is not just happening here. Bet your bottom dollars. That's why you saw the European Central Bank, the Bank of Canada, the Swiss National Bank, all the Federal Reserve, all the Bank of England, and all these other big banks coming together. Why, guys? To do those US dollar swaps to provide liquidity to this situation on a global scale. We're seeing it all over the world. In 1998, Russia, the LTCM crisis started in June of 1997 in Thailand. The 2008 Lehman Brothers crisis started in the spring of 2007 with reported mortgage losses by HSBC. The warning signs are always there in advance. Most observers either don't know what the signs are simply not looking. Well, I am looking. And what I see is a rare convergence of a severe recession and a liquidity crisis at the same time as happened in 2008. It's coming. Well, when did Jim put this out? Guys, he put this out right here on January 3rd of 2023. Well, lo and behold, what are we dealing with even right now? Fed and other central banks trying to head off crisis by keeping dollars flowing. Guys, we are literally seeing the very liquidity crisis that Jim Rickards predicted there in January. And listen to this. The U.S. Federal Reserve and other major central banks announced a coordinated effort Sunday night to boost the flow of U.S. dollars through the global financial system with the aim of keeping credit flowing to households and businesses. The Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, and the Swiss National Bank are today announcing a coordinated action to enhance the provision of liquidity via the standing US dollar liquidity swap line arrangements, the central bank said in a joint statement. Guys, you cannot make this up. It is happening, and it is happening right now. And we are talking about a massive blaze. I'm telling you guys, you got to look at this as the forest fire of all time. It is happening, and it's happening right now. Now, is there any kind of an answer for it? Well, I think there is an answer for it. Now, I want you to take a look at this little clip that was put out back in 2018. And this is Chris Larson from Ripple talking about how the next global financial crisis could be avoided. Just take a look at this, and we'll be right back.
Is 10 years out on the financial crisis, we still don't have the infrastructure perhaps to prevent the next one. And I think this is where digital assets can really help, because an efficient digital asset can really solve some of the key problems in global liquidity. You know, the world's got trillions and trillions of dollars tied up in liquidity just to get around how clunky the movement of value is around the world. If with a really efficient digital asset, something like XRP, again, that's what we believe will be the most efficient, you can now reduce trillions and trillions of capital from being tied up. So you can make those transfers instantly as a bank or as a payment provider or as an enterprise without having to have money pre-positioned all over the world.
Now, guys, did you hear that? I mean, you are literally hearing a use case to solve this global liquidity situation right now with the utilization of the XRP ledger and XRP. And why is that, guys? It is the elimination of nostro vostro and what on-demand liquidity could really do to save this entire global financial system. And I think what we're watching is a house of cards slowly being imploded, and they're just trying everything they can to hold it up when they know, in fact, they're going to run out of steam. It's going to run out of steam, guys, and we're going to see us switched over to this new digital economy, this new digital financial system. And it's my belief XRP is going to play a pivotal role. Now, just take a look at what is Ripple's on-demand liquidity to really get an understanding of how it works. Ripple on-demand liquidity helps customers to move money around the world without the need for correspondent banking relationships and the pre-funding of accounts abroad. The product aims to deliver payments that are seamless, real-time, and cost-effective. The legacy payments infrastructure is a patchwork of centralized networks. It takes an average of 3 to 5 days to settle international transactions that involve multiple parties. The system is also prone to errors with poor data flow between intermediaries. Payment processing costs are high, averaging between literally $20 to $35 per payment, and even way more than that. And guys, you get it on both ends, don't you? When you send a wire overseas, and I've done that, you pay here, and hey, the guy that gets it over there, he also pays. Now listen to this. The Ripple on-demand liquidity product aims to help network members in accessing a pool of ready-to-use money through digital assets. The cost of sourcing this liquidity is kept low because it happens only when there is demand on demand. You don't have to have trillions of dollars parked in nostro vostro accounts, just like Chris Larson was talking about. And guys, that can solve this entire liquidity problem just like that. And don't you think the regulators don't actually see that and know that? This means that customers of the product, banks, payment providers, and corporates don't need to keep expensive nostro accounts open in foreign countries. And it goes on how the ODL works and all that. But guys, I'll tell you what, we are facing a situation where the world is in absolute crisis like we're looking at right here, and XRP can come to the rescue and really make a difference in this whole thing. And it's my belief that the powers that be, all these regulators, they're taking a look, guys, because they know, hey, look, this whole house of cards, it's going to come down. And when it does, it's going to happen fast and furious. And they need to have an answer ready to go. And my belief is we are definitely going to see XRP being a major catalyst of that rescue. And on top of that, I think we're going to be getting a court decision here very, very soon where XRP itself is deemed not to be a security, especially in these secondary markets. And I'm telling you what, from my point of view, it is going to cause such an explosion. It literally could be an economic revolution and the greatest wealth transfer in the history of mankind. Guys, with things happening in this space as fast as it is, having a plan can be the difference between you making it or breaking it. And what our coaching program is, that is where you and I can meet personally, one-on-one for 1 hour over Zoom. And during that time, I share with you our personal journey in that last bull run and what enabled Judy and I to experience some amazing financial success. I share with you the mistakes we made so that you don't have to fall into the same pitfalls we did. We take a look at your portfolio and make sure that it's balanced towards your goals, and we work together to develop your exit strategy. We can even get your assets off an exchange and onto a hardware wallet, along with delivering to you some amazing techniques that will really help you in this space. Now, the cost of that is $250, and if that's something that interests you, you write me right there at coaching@thedigitaloutlook.com and we'll get you all booked in. So guys, this is the video I have for you today, and as always, I truly hope that you enjoyed it, and I want to invite you to join the conversation and drop your comments right down there in the comments section. Open it up to the community and start a discussion. Now, many of you know I'm not a financial advisor, and this isn't financial advice, but if you found value in it, if you'd hit that like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And hey, don't forget to hit the notification bell down there, because things in this space change lightning fast, and I like to get that information out to you as soon as possible. And on top of that, I don't want you missing out on any of our regularly released videos. Now, if you're one of the thousands of people who have been watching these videos but you haven't yet subscribed, would you do the channel a favor and join this community? We'd really love to have you on board. So in the meantime and in between time, stay safe, be blessed, and I'll catch you in the next one.